Okay, so that was a quick little playthrough of where I'm at with Spike Driver Blues. Went through the basic Kyle Orla version, and we went through a version with Tony Polcastro's little hammer-on licks. That kind of thing right there. So that's one of the main tunes that I've been working on. Today is Monday, the 8th of September, 2025, and this is my weekly roundup, where I go over what I've been working on, what I've been learning, how I've been learning it, what different tools I'm using. So that is the main tune I've been working on, and kind of played a little bit of that for you before, but basically relies on this alternate thumb picking. And it's a Mississippi John Hurt tune. I am a big fan of Mississippi John Hurt, and I feel like I'm getting there with this tune. I've gotten to a playthrough at 65 beats per minute. Before I was struggling to get it at 40. Trying to get it over 100, then I can consider it as something I can actually really play. Let's see. So, another thing I've been working on is this kind of e-groove thing from David Hamburger. And he has a piece on YouTube. He actually has a series of videos called 6 Steps to Playing a Fingerstyle Blues in E. And it's very much, it's characteristic of his teaching method, where you start with the bass line, you start adding things to the bass line, and you just build from there, which is a very logical way to go about this. So his main thing is you just start with a steady thumb bass on the low E string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he has you start adding 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see that's the second fret of the D string, which is another E, so we're just kind of playing with those two E's an octave apart. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you just layer on. In these other things. And as you move along, you can get more and more complex, but once you fall apart, once you lose the steady thumb bass, you got to slow down and try something else. Or, try the same thing at an easier rate of speed, maybe. And you can find yourself adding in. You can find yourself adding in other licks that you know that are in E or that are fair game for licks. You can add in things like chord moves. And you can see that I'm starting to fall apart there, but this is something that I work on, and I just keep coming back to that groove. The idea is to calibrate that inner metronome. So that's something I've been spending a lot of time on lately. So, what else? Okay, So our theme for the week, in keeping with that, is the idea of deconstructing and reconstructing a song. So let's go back to Spike Driver Blues for a minute. What do we have going here? So it's based on this alternating thumb bass. You should spend some time just working on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you can also pick apart what's going on in the melody line. Forget about the bass for a minute. You've got this note and this note in one measure. In the next measure, you're kind of so you can pick apart the bass, you can pick apart the melody. You can also break it apart by things like what chord voicings there are. Well, in a song like Spike Driver Blues, everything is either a G or a G7. And pretty much the entire song is a band between G and G7. So chordally, it's pretty simple. You can break it down by measure. There's G measures, there's G7 measures, and there's measures where you're still in G, but you're using this this E note here for a little friendly dissonance. And there's also techniques to consider. You got your alternate thumb. That's one technique that can be isolated and practiced. You've also got hammer-ons that can be isolated and practiced. You got hammer-ons with pinches that go together that can be isolated and practiced. You've got rhythmic things to consider. Like most of the song is a pretty easy 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's also passages like this where the eighth notes in between pop out and there's a little bit of syncopation. So that's one thing to look at. Another way you can tear apart the tune is what Tony Policastro does. You go technique, rhythm, chord progression. What scale is it in? If you're in G, you can work on your G major scales. You can work on your E minor pentatonic scales. So that's all going to be valid. And if you're doing the blues in E, the David Hamburger blues in E, you can work on your E scales. That's the theme for the week, is this tearing apart of a tune. And I did a show earlier called Tune Teardown about Spike Driver Blues, where I kind of ripped apart the different parts of the tune, showed some of the exercises that Tony Policastro has, played through one simplified arrangement by Kyle Orla, the one you heard at the top of the show, played through another simplified arrangement that I think was Stefan Grossman's. This is kind of related to what I was talking about a previous week about how I was working on Layla, both the acoustic and electric versions, and how understanding how different techniques were accomplishing the same thing told me something that was fundamental about the song. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about here when we talk about disassembling, reassembling, deconstructing, reconstructing, tearing apart, putting back together a song. And the other, I don't know which of these counts as an educational principle and which of these counts as a theme, but the other thing I'm working on is understanding the difference between phrasing and the structure of a song. For that, I'll use an example from Slow as Lightning, the Steve James piece that I've been working on. Both the E7 passages of that song and some of the B passages, the B7 passages of that song, end in this very similar way. I'll play through the E7 passage so you understand what I'm talking about. So. That was a little sloppy. Let me do that a little faster here. So it's got this slide from the 2nd fret of the A string, and then the 2nd, 4th fret of the D string. That's a recurring figure. So we're here, and that's how the E7 passages end. And then the A7 passages, we're kind of here, traditional A7 shape. We have the open A string, then we have that 3rd fret of the high E string, and then this little figure here with the D and the A string. Then pinch, high, and that's how the measure ends. So I had been practicing these two measures as independent phrases, which is, I'm not going to say it's the wrong way to play the song, it's a valid way to play the song. End of one measure. End of the next measure. But what's interesting about the way Steve James actually plays the song is those aren't actually the phrases. That's not actually the end of one idea and the beginning of another. This is the end of one idea. That first note of the A7 passage. And then this is almost a separate idea. Those 4 notes go together, even though they cross over a measure. So this is why it's important to count through a song and understand the timing, because this is a distinct lick, a distinct phrase. And this is another distinct phrase. So that goes together, and then we're... Sorry, that was sloppy. That's a distinct phrase. Those go together. When you're looking at a piece of music and trying to learn it measure for measure, it's very easy to associate the measures in your mind with phrases, or to treat a measure as a phrase. But that's why it's important to look at the whole song organically. And in the past, I've stressed the importance of breaking things down by chords. So rather than just seeing a series of notes, let's look at this measure. This is the E measure. That's a discrete unit. Let's look at this measure. This is the A measure. That's a discrete unit. And that's valuable because it helps you understand the structure of the song. But the phrasing of the song may or may not line up with the structure of the song. You might end a given phrase on the 1 of the next measure. And the next phrase might start on the and or on the 2 with... that's important to recognize. It's important to do both, to zoom out and understand the structure of the piece formally, which measure is which measure goes with which chord, and also to understand the structure of the piece as a series of notes, which series of notes is a phrase, is an idea. That's an important thing to understand too, and that's something I've been working on. So, featured instrument for the week is not actually a guitar at all, it's this little thing right here, which is a foot tambourine. And it's something I've been using to try to help me keep the rhythm of a piece in mind when I'm counting. So, if we're doing spike driver blues, let's just get that groove going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, I'm using it to accent the one beat. It doesn't have to be the one beat. It can be whatever beat you think is the center of the song. You can use it to accent the 2 and the 4 beats if you want to get that downbeat primary in your mind. And much like I was talking about last week, where I get a different kind of stimulus from the haptic metronome than I do from the sonic metronome, this is a way to use another part of your body in concert to make your body be entrained to the rhythm. I've found that very valuable. And I guess you can also use it as sort of an accent to your playing if you're doing like a campfire thing and you're playing solo and you want to just, you want to like draw attention or be your own percussion section or be a one-man band. Also useful for that. Another piece of gear, and I don't know whether this even technically counts as a piece of gear either. We're being very unconventional this week. The featured piece of gear of the week is actually vinyl. It doesn't have to be vinyl. It could be a CD, it could be an MP3. I enjoy vinyl because it's tactile, because it's pretty, but this is Mississippi John Hurt record. This is the 1928 sessions, and this has several tunes on it that I would like to learn at some point. Spike Driver Blues is not among them on this particular record. This is just what I grabbed, but it can be incredibly valuable even if you can't figure out music by ear. It can be incredibly valuable to try because you can understand the structure. You can understand things like those phrases. I mean, that phrase thing became obvious to me after I've been playing that piece off of tab for a few months. Had it under my fingers, but I didn't have the timing right. And when I went back and listened to Steve James' recording, it was very obvious, like, oh, okay, the stops and starts aren't where I think they are. And if you're not working directly with a teacher to learn a given piece, it can be incredibly valuable to have that that reality check of a recorded version. And that's not to say that a different way of playing it can't be valid, can't be better. It very well might be, but if you're trying to get something down, that's a good way to go about it. Shout out of the week is going to be to David Hamburger. He has a pay site that also has some free content at Fretboard Confidential. That particular series, the 6 steps to play a 12-bar blues, or 6 steps to playing a fingerstyle blues in E, is excellent. What he does is he goes through that. First video is all about that. That groove practice we were talking about. He then goes through some of the different licks you can put on that. And I don't have them all up to speed yet, but on the 4, he has that little open A from the flat third to the major third. He has a slide lick that kind of goes like that I do not have up to speed yet. he's got various chord moves where you can pick up like an E7 shape down here. That's not right. There we go. E7 shape up here. And he has another video on just different voicings of E7 that you can use and how you can use them and how to play them rhythmically. Like you can play them as triplets, you can play them as shout choruses. He talks about different voicings of A7 you can use. He has a section where he covers a couple different turnarounds you can use. He talks about what a vamp is, what a shout chorus is, and how to turn this kind of abstract groove and series of licks into a coherent piece. I think if there was one video or set of videos that I was going to use to just approach fingerstyle blues, and that was going to be my entire curriculum, it would probably be that. So David Hamburger, 6 Steps to Playing a Fingerstyle Blues in E. You can find it on YouTube, and he has a PDF that breaks down in tabulature everything he goes over on Fretboard Confidential that is available for free. I'm not currently a member of Fretboard Confidential. I'm working my way up to that, but that is something I would eventually like to pursue. Coming up this week, I'm not sure I've made enough progress in any of my alternate tuning pieces to do a alternate tuning Tuesday tomorrow. If I do, it will probably be drop D, because I'm working on a couple little riffs in drop D. And Theory Thursday, I'm going to break down another thing from David Hamburger. He has a video out there called Are You Learning Scales the Wrong Way? In which he has this great line that a scale is a handle you use to carry around a set of notes. In other words, rather than thinking in terms of shapes or sequences of notes, you think in terms of roots and valid notes around those roots, and you can sort of construct little mini licks where you know, this is the root, this is the flat third, this is the flat fifth, this is the major fifth, major third, and you can use those if you know what chords you're going over to solo. So it's a way to think about scales, a way to play, a way to turn your scale practice into something that is usable as soloing. And it's been something I've been working on that I've found pretty valuable. One other little lick I'm working on, this is from Tony Policastro. It's kind of a hill country blues lick. I'm very slow at it, but kind of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like that. So it's very hypnotic and repetitive and groovy and catchy, even though it's pretty much in straight eighths. It's quarter notes for the first 2, and then kind of eighth notes, but they're not really syncopated, they're not really swung. It still sounds cool as hell, but oops. And there's a version where you're it's more chordy, but I find my chordal version of that is a little loud. So that's something I'm working on. Definitely going to revisit palm muting here in the next week, because that's not something I've grasped yet. But thank you very much for sticking with us here. And we'll see you later in the week.